Boom, boom, boom. It says live. It says live. It's Sam and Michael. We're mucking about with autograders. Um, Gosh, the autograders. Um, so basically, I think there are three things. One is that one student was getting there was a fatal error with your submission on the cucumber assignment, and Bill couldn't work out what that was about. I think I've worked it by running it locally. It looks like there's just like a simple error in some of the Rails code in an scenario step. So I think that's just the issue. The student should see that, and I mean, like they should catch that if they run that locally on their own machine. So maybe I'm missing something, but of course, what we really want is that the student would actually, the grader would give that feedback to the student rather than concealing it. And I think I have a fix for that, which could make our lives a lot easier. I mean, anyway, but so I've kind of been all through the grader, and I think I found, is it in, excuse me, I don't know, the whole grader thing goes backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. We've got, what is it? There's actually in feature. It's almost like this was homework 4 feature. Blah. I mean, I put basically, there's a part of the grade that I haven't really looked at very much, which is it has this like feature thing for running cucumber scenarios or features, I guess. And it's sort of set up to kind of capture, output from the cucumber, and you can see things like here, like it's rescuing the error, it's logging that error, and then it's re-raising that error.
Right.
And then actually, so I think this is homework 4. It's not doing this. This is the one then for homework 3. Is it? Oh, I guess I'm on a different branch now. That's why I'm not seeing the. Yeah. So I think this is one. Anyway, same thing here. But basically, so this is then the sort of, this is actually their F. It's getting each of the features and it's running them, right? But then this rescue block only catches a very restricted number of failures, custom failures. And so what's happening at the moment is that when the student's code has an error, this is like this whole attempt to get the total score fails. And so the output dumping process, which is like, in that student's case, like why the thing actually failed, is just totally lost.
Okay.
So ironically, the thing that actually, well, what I speculate, I need to try it on the live grader, is that just having this like here, basically, I mean, that's, generally considered bad practice. It actually allows this bit of code to run when there has been a standard error that's bubbling up. And then it ends up dumping the output there. For some, I mean, you would maybe what it wants to do is.
So what was the student seeing at all?
The student was just seeing this like, and we've seen this a lot. The student only sees this. There was a fatal error with your submission.
Oh, so basically some higher level piece of code was catching some exception.
The higher level piece of code, basically what was happening is that there was no output being passed back. So if we look at the actual autograder itself, autograder has this run in sub process. The interesting thing is there's nested sub processes. Like the grader itself runs things in a sub process, and so the feature grader runs in a sub process, which then opens a separate sub process to run the cucumber stuff in. But so in particular, basically here, like that failure in the feature grader would prevent the feature grader actually returning any output at all here. And then at the autograder level, it would say, well, basically there was no output. We have no idea. There was some error.
So why in particular does it prevent it from returning that?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I would have to remember where total got called from. I mean, this is this thing with autograder. So like the grading function is called. So we've got the feature grader. So the feature grader here, this is where it tries to work out the score. So basically, if that error is not caught, then this, but the error is not caught. It would cause the error to run here for the runner block, because that's the thing, because you've got run. What that means then is, see, it then does this, the run-in subprocess here basically means that there's no output there. So that's jumping into the run-in subprocess here. God, it makes my head hurt with these things calling backwards and forwards to each other. Good grief. Because it's like the feature grader, like, I guess it comes in and it says, right, grade this assignment. And so it's got the mechanism for grading it here, but it says do it in a subprocess, which the autograder provides. So the autograder tries to set up here to allow for that operation to out, but this is even in a separate thing here. But so I think this, basically, because that error bubbles up, this entire process just kind of, I can't work out where it dies.
It just crashes.
Well, if we try and follow it back, because I'm looking at the feature, because basically, if it, in the absence of this total fails, and the total is here, so the failure would come back up, and basically, so what that would mean is all of this stuff would not run, and so basically there would be an error occurring in this having run this method, which runs in the subprocess, which is basically here. So I think here, rather than the output hash being set as the result of that, this process that's been, and this is started in a separate process, this just fails, right? So nothing gets written to this I/O pipe, and then here, when it tries to read the subprocess response, hello, yeah.
So does that call block?
This one?
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's been forked here. We're using this process wait to block waiting for it to end. I mean, it doesn't block here. It just, I mean, it's, a new process at this point. I mean, this is, this block is given over to this fork operation, and it's run in a separate fork. So this code has been given off to some other process to run. Meanwhile, in this thread here, we're waiting to see if that process completes with a certain timeout.
So we're blocking.
Yeah, we're effectively waiting up to 60 seconds to see if, and then having a look at what the result was from calling this.
And then when we actually timeout process.wait. So how does process.wait fail?
Well, I think process wait, it doesn't fail. I mean, it will just, the process wait here, this will end up, preventing the this flow of execution continuing until, in this case, either this do the process, either the forked code indicates that it's finished successfully or otherwise.
So does it throw a timeout error, basically?
Or there's a timeout. Timeout exceeds. Yeah. So the timeout, if it exceeds the timeout, then you'll get a timeout error, which is down here, and it will kill the process and detach it to avoid the grader kind of like, leaking memory.
Detach. What does detach it mean?
Expresses interest in the process so that OS hopefully takes care of the zombie.
Oh.
But the, which is all very interesting. I think the key thing here is that basically if the grading operation fails with an error, like the process basically crashes due to some student code, because it's the only things that are wrapped in this case are these very minimal exceptions. That means that like all of the output information can't be caught. Like at the top level, the individual grader has to catch an error. It's like RSpec, right? It's the difference between the failure that you get when it's like valid RSpec code versus a failure that happens inside a block that you've caught and you can inspect the data. So if the grader operation doesn't catch general errors, then it can't send back a packaged set of data to the top level process. And so if this just fails, right, there is no output hash, there's no writing of the output hash to there.
Right. Well.
Yeah. There you go. So.
I don't understand every detail. But...
No. Well, I don't pretend to understand every deal myself. But actually, explaining to you has made that parts of it clearer in my mind. So I've got. So what I'm sort of on the way towards doing is testing whether this actually gives us more data output in the what's it called now? More output data in the actual grade, the feedback from edX and so on. But as a kind of preparation for that, I'm trying to get like I had put the stuff that we'd done, you and I actually, I think, or you and I looking at it together. Oh no. Actually, this is. I'd managed to get the staging grader working for the new acceptance as unit test cycle thing. Oh no, it was more recently. It was just me, and that's on the master. And then there's other like bits and pieces of stuff, and I'm just kind of merging them into that and sort of trying to deploy that and make sure that works. Before moving on to actually deploy the main stuff. And so what I've got here now is I'm just getting like a I'm not getting everything green on this at the moment. I've removed certain errors, and it's got this one. This is actually, is this grading? It's on line 60. Yeah, it's grading like a student scenario that's actually kind of like broken, and it's saying it was on 40, 60. And I think that's kind of a trivial one there. It makes me want to just edit this and see if I can just get everything green on the staging grader, because this one is just, this is one like this is the factory girl thing. Actually, Control O, Control X. So, I mean, even with this fix, I still think the grade is a horrible mess. It feels to me like we should go for, it would just be so much better if we could have all the students submitting their assignments via pull requests. And then we could use things like Code Climate and everything to just assess their standard submissions. And we know that the answers are all out there. So why are we even, I guess the thing from the other instructors who, like, for time pressured students who are doing like bricks and mortar universities, it's too tempting. If you can see the answer, you can't control yourself to avoid looking at it. But I almost feel like I'm not sure. You know, even if you've seen the answer, typing it all in step by step and sort of making it all work is still hard. Anyway, so that was just this thing. Then there's a separate one. Like Bill's got a comment here from somebody who's actually having sort of trouble conceptually with the. This is someone else here. Okay, so somebody else is like confused about these steps. Yeah, but then I think Bill has written up his own comments about this issue. This is with the next homework that I was just writing some replies to. Okay, right, so this is his kind of conceptual issue. I mean, the step that they have to do there is they have to add this additional path thing in. So I guess this is lower priority now that I start pulling it out. But then we've also got, what was it here? Some other kind of exceptions that people are guessing on. This is then the unit test acceptance test title. And I think again, but people are seeing this thing. There was a fatal error with your submission. It either timed out core submission and not showing the.
So how do you run it locally?
Well, I can just run the cucumber tests locally, and that actually runs some of the assignments against the grader.
No, I mean, say that I had a student submission, right?
Yeah.
That came in from a bug report
Mm-hmm.
on a given homework. How do I actually run that locally as a first?
Well, the thing that I've been doing, so that was how I started into this. Is what I did was I added. So where has it gone? It says, I mean, homework 4 is now. I got to adjust them, but this says get stuck here. So what I did is that is it homework 4? No, homework 3, and I haven't got it in this. But you can see basically if you've got a submission from a student that has a problem, you can create a new zip file of that, stick it in the support directory. You then need to create an associated JSON file that mentions the name of that zip file in these two places. And then you can add, you know, a scenario to say, all right, try and grade this thing. So this is 2 previous, you know, problems that have come in from students that have been addressed in this fashion.
But there's also a way to run it just off the command line, right?
Well, actually, not anymore. There used to be. I
could have sworn like 2 or 3 months ago we did.
Well, I think if we did, we may have done that with the old grader. Because basically the what have they done? Yeah, in this new operation of all of this, whatever, they've removed the scripts and they've basically set it up so that the only way to access the autograder is through this new XQ submission thing.
Okay.
So, which is kind of painful. I mean, you can, in principle, just run you can for certain graders, you can just run this. You can use RSpec to run the thing directly. Okay, so I've now got. So this is the staging grader, and I've got.
But not the feature grader.
No.
And what was the point of XQ and all that? Just briefly.
The XQ was to remove dependencies specific to the edX XQ structure from the grader code itself.
And that was just for architectural beauty, or?
That was for architectural beauty. I mean, I think it was to, you know, I mean,
simplify it.
I think it's to simplify the grader. I mean, which I think was a sensible thing to do. It's unfortunate that in the process, the grader, I mean, I guess in principle, it should now be relatively easy to write something that would hit the grader in a different way rather than through the edxq. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it's another one of these situations where Armando has these ideas about the, evolving the architecture, communicates that to students, and then students do, an interpretation of that, and the results are variable. um, I mean, it just seems to
That was
me.
last summer, right? They were working on that.
Say again? No, that's right. That's right.
That was the TAs last summer.
It was, yes, yes, it was indeed.
Like two of them, I think.
Yep, yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I found there was I was quite pleased to discover a little like helper method to do that instead of using reduce or inject.
Okay, cool.
That was nice. And the test all passed, so that was good. But so yeah, so the thing I'm going to do now, that with a staging grader like that, I need to start and restart the staging grader. I probably do, and that will be over here. I mean, the thing is, the interesting thing. I mean, I like for all of the engineering effort going into the autograder, I guess it seems if the reason that we're kind of using it is basically to help students who, if they could see the solutions already, would not derive any pedagogical value from. I don't know. It just seems like it just seems insane to me. Anyway, I mean, in the boot camp, we just had the students submit pull requests, and then in principle they could all look at each other's, and I think that's actually a good thing. And the counter argument is that students, at University of North Carolina, Charlotte, if the stuff's just there and they could relatively easy find it, then they'll just go and grab it and copy it, and they won't learn anything.
Right, but presumably the difference is that at the University of South Carolina, Charlotte, students are worried about getting GPA points,
Right.
and at the boot camp, students are more worried about actually
Learning.
learning the material.
Yes. But I wonder, like, and then it comes back to in my mind is the solution not to say, right, let's have a video, in order to get the GPA, let's have a video of you pair programming on this and have a peer review of it, so that we can check that you did actually do it.
Right.
Rather than going to like extraordinary lengths to try and, okay, now this is all, now the problem here is, of course, is that this is all, that's all the old grader queues. Fuck off. Yeah, that's so annoying. So this is all my development setup here is for the old style of things. So if I want to have grader tests here for this lot, God. Yeah, I mean it's interesting. It's interesting. There's so many things. So that's the old one there. I guess almost what I need there. Good grief. It's test submission homework 0 there. We've got staging, production, develop. So we almost kind of need a new submit. Oh God. Test submission homework. Well, this is now called 1 revised. Let's call it just Ruby intro. Oh, good grief. And then we stick that in there, and what I'm going to need to do is go and grab the relevant thing from there. So we've got homework Ruby introduction. This is the element for unit in Studio. So I can create one and submit and then move on.
In some way, it goes back to what Rose was saying, that
Oh yeah.
the multitasking in the university environment, especially in the undergraduate environment,
Mm-hmm.
is like so weird. Like, in that you just kind of multitask between like completely unrelated or largely unrelated things,
Right.
instead of them all being related. And like it takes like maybe, like you could spend 40 hours a week
Uh-huh.
working on school stuff, but like it's quite different from a job.
Right.
So like, I don't know.
Yes. I mean, you're just saying in general.
It's kind of like, oh, like if I'm working on, psychology 101,
Uh-huh.
and like I feel like it's not going to help me at all in like calculus, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, you're saying
Like
that.
there's no like relation between the courses. So like time spent in one is strictly competitive with the other.
Right. Right. Right.
Whereas if it was actually related, like presumably in the boot camp, like working out, how to spending time on how to write RSpec helps with learning Ruby too.
Mm-hmm.
Like because it's all actually coherently related in some way.
Yes. Yes. There's sort of a everything you're doing is kind of coherently related to each thing.
Right. Whereas like if I'm in Psych 101
Yes.
and I can get the answers for Psych 101, homework,
Uh-huh.
then I can like doing Psych 101 homework doesn't like help me with anything else that I'm doing. Do you know what I mean?
No. No. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I think that. Yeah, I mean, I was saying, I mean, it seems very odd, the structure of doing, these mixtures of different things. It sort of prevents you from getting up to a significant level of detail or interest with anything, um, which does seem to me very, very odd. Like, it would seem to me that it would be more interesting to have a university structure where you did a series of boot camps where you did 3 months intense on different things, to like really get into that thing in significant, to avoid the task switching penalties, so to speak.
Right.
Um, anyway, so I've got the homework one there. That's at least great.
And I think a lot of departments would suffer in some ways.
Would they?
There's political issues with that. Well, say that I'm like going to be like an engineering major, right?
Right.
Like I think me spending a 3-month intensive boot camp in like the humanities
Right.
would probably be very hard for the university to sell.
Maybe. I don't know.
Like,
From a,
oh, like your entire semester, all in one shot, like $20,000 worth of tuition. You're just gonna spend it on humanities this 3 months. and learn
Mm,
absolutely nothing at all relevant
right.
to your ultimate like goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's a lot harder to sell.
Yeah, very possibly. I mean, I guess the although that yeah, there's a phrase for it that they use HPU that I've forgotten what it was about. It's related to producing well-rounded individuals. So, like, I have computer science majors who have to take
Sure.
physics lab and stuff, spread through their thing because that's like part of making them a well-rounded individual, and other bits and pieces. Yeah.
Sure, but I think it would be a lot harder to sell
No,
than
absolutely. Well,
the idea that I'm just going to spend 3 months intensively studying.
no, no. Although if it was right, because if in the UK they sell it as a package for 3 years rather than just that it's broken up into these elements. So maybe it would be easier in the UK than in the US. I mean, from a point of view of like, the employer though, it's like if you could feel that your engineering major had actually learned how to communicate and argue their point effectively with other human beings and for example, actually write persuasively as a consequence of doing, kind of like an intensive writing boot camp, that would actually be quite desirable rather than okay they did some like randomly disconnected classes over the course of the 3 years and basically sort of blew them off and got like a passing grade kind of thing. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it just Cornell's writing program was really good, I thought,
Mm-hmm.
but we had
But
to
go on. Sorry, say again.
we had to take 2 courses in it,
Mm-hmm.
and it
Mm-hmm.
was like very. It was in a particular. The way that they ran it was like they literally had like every department.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of departments, like in the humanities and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
would have courses like in writing.
Mm.
So like I took a course in writing, like arguing about medieval philosophy,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and like we went into depth reading all these like basically a bunch of like medieval philosophy.
Mm, cool. Well, and maybe it's the
Which is
case.
not a lot different, I gather, from a lot of other universities where you kind of just take a generic writing course.
Right.
I don't know though.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing is,
And it was
go on.
all the way that they structured it. All your writing courses were small, like 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
So the teacher had a lot of time to spend with you, and you had close discussion groups
Right. That sounds good.
discussing like the text that you were reading and like arguments and like,
Uh-huh.
which is all costly.
Yes. Yeah. Well, maybe. I mean, we're excited about boot camps for coding, but there's maybe an extent to which, um, the what's it called? The for writing, it doesn't require the level of intensity to kind of break through and get good at it that it does with coding.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I would say basically you just need to read this one book called The Elements of Style.
Right. Yeah, I think I have it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, although
10 Lessons in Clarity and Grace.
yeah, but I think actually internalizing those, I don't know. It's interesting that there doesn't seem to be a demand for writing boot camps. I guess that's probably because writers don't get paid as much.
Probably not, no.
Okay, so now that's okay. So the problem here with lining these things out, I think I'm going to have to put them in just different.
I mean, how did you learn to write?
Just forcing myself to do it again and again and again and again.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a novel when I was in my late teens, early 20s. I just doing it lots and lots and lots and lots. I'm a big fan of just doing things continuously, repeating them and repeating them. Oh, nuts. This is really, it's probably because I don't trust the tests that are associated with the grader. I've got this development section. I've just put this test submission for that. Um, I think actually a much better layout of that for me would be to have now. I mean, I'm reticent to delete all those, so I've got them in other places. God, I hate this edX system. I want to go in here and create a new element, I think, in here that will have all of the components. So if I create a new subsection here, which is like, I call this test revised grader, like so, and we make a new unit there. Okay, and so this will now, I mean, let's do Sinatra in here and put, well, this will be Sinatra, and we'll put a problem in there, and that will be, this will be the
So your novel was cyberpunk?
It was, yeah.
It actually was cyberpunk.
It was, yes. It's called Tribal Hardware. You can, I think you can probably download it on Lulu if you're interested.
Oh, really? You put it up on.
I self-published it like, a few years back.
Huh.
It needs like massive. I mean, it's kind of sucky, but it's there. It needs like proofreading and editing and stuff. Anyway. Have I got? That's would be interesting.
Why don't you get some free intern to do it?
I don't have interns.
Like, people were getting people. Like, I heard someone that I knew that wrote a novel and like literally got some like college student to edit it for free.
Oh, okay. And how did that work out?
Of course. Well, the editing wasn't that.
Wasn't all that. How?
There's a lot of things they didn't catch.
How surprising.
Let's say that.
Sure. Okay.
But I don't know what the state of the novel was before they edited it, so maybe they did make some improvements.
Indeed.
But it definitely wasn't like up to
no
professional published editing.
No. God, I find this. What does it take to make this bloody thing visible to me? Okay. I just hate the way. I mean, different navigation systems. I've got this subsection. No, is it not? Right. The thing that it's just called subsection. Right. Because I created the new unit, it didn't. This is like best revised grader. Oh, God. Okay, so it exists there, or at least exists in that one, but it's called subsection. Rats thing. Okay, so that's Sinatra one, so we can choose the Sinatra file.
So what was the book called again?
Tribal Hardware. Features. Support. So now, does this actually contain a Sinatra assignment? Maybe, maybe not. I have to go and look at. I mean, I don't even have a Sinatra assignment. And the Sinatra assignment involves, right, the submission of a URL, which I have had at one point. So I work backwards through my. There we go. Got one there. Okay. So that's Sinatra set up for testing there. That was me looking at the thing. That's there. So right. So here, if I have a new subunit here, So the one after
The price on that's really high for a novel, especially one that's
is it
really,
what does it sell at?
like $43.
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, I thought it was available for free anyway. I've got like there's
Saying that it's a print.
I think that's for if you print it out. I think the electronic version is available. I think you can get PDF, and then there's like an HTML version I had at one point that's up somewhere with weird formatting.
You should make it on Kindle.
Yeah, I mean it's like just one of those things that I now feel. I mean, yeah, I guess I will come around again at some point. I guess thinking it's worth spending any time on. 3 Rails intro. I'm in here. This is Rails intro staging. Will be if I change that word to development. Publish that. So, and that's that one. That should be relevant. This is now. So if I look, will I see? So that's Sinatra, that's Rails intro. So Rails intro, I guess I've got, not obviously. Let's go back to here. Brag. So
Well, if there's a free electronic version, they've done a good job of hiding it.
Yeah, it may not be available through Lulu. If you search for tribal hardware as a single word, I can probably find it for you. So it actually appears on Amazon. You can get the hardcover for like $76. Oh. I think look, ScriptD has grabbed it as PDF. There you go. I think there we go. That's one version of it. There. Okay, so ScriptD has got it. I mean, I also like released it through Creative Commons at one point, I think.
Oh, okay.
So that actually looks like the whole.
Because Lulu's also selling it on Apple Books for $18.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's ever bought it. I don't imagine that they ever will.
Now, apparently if somebody were to actually buy that, you would get a royalty check or something.
I imagine. I don't know. Yeah, it's never happened. So I've made more money out of Agile Ventures than I've ever made for being an author of a book. Okay, so that seems to have worked there. We're moving towards having. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna make a hangout and I'll see you there through the scrum.